Good evening, you're listening to the Bon Ree Show. Today we're doing a combination of the Monday and a Tuesday show as we're still getting things up and running in this new wonderful station. So on Mondays we talk about the EU, and on Tuesdays we're going to talk about the finances situation of what Ireland's in. So we'll start by a quick look at the finances. Now, we're in a very bad situation. 200,000 jobs in retail are expected to go this weekend, mostly because companies crashing, particularly in the retail sector, has been heavily affected. And some, as people have health issues, do not want to be on the front line, which you cannot blame them. They're talking about making new hospitals from old hotels and such like that. Well, at least that's a relief. At least they're not putting the more fake refugees into them. So at least that's a bit of a benefit. That's a bit of an upside. So that's what they're going to have to do because the numbers are going to be huge. We don't know. I actually believe we're going to be as bad as Italy. The reason being all our cases are directly linked to Italy. And because Simon Harris and the rest of the idiots in our government didn't close the border, yes, they closed schools and did all that sort of stuff, but they didn't close the borders. 10 days too late. And our borders aren't still closed to most countries. Most countries have closed their borders to us. So 10 days, and that is, we're now on 223, I think was the last time I looked at it. Probably higher even since the last time I've looked at it, and 2 deaths. So it's like going like wildfire. You know, the man is an idiot because of the EU. He's such an EU puppet, and he loves the idea of open borders more than people's lives. He refused to believe it had anything to do with open borders. Now he's only closed, I think, 10 days too late. You know, and still, if you fly into another country from Italy into Ireland, it's still possible. So, yeah, and then, you know, Leo says there's about 15,000 by the end of the month. More jobs, he reckons, will be lost in different sectors. So, it's a crazy time. There's a lot of things happening. So we'll have a look at the foreign doctors. Now this is a thing. There's so many doctors and have come in from different countries. It'll be down to them to decide on who lives and dies. So you have somebody maybe, you know, in their 70s, 80s in Ireland who's lived a good life but contribute all their lives to Ireland, worked hard, put all their taxes in for Ireland, and as generations have done before them. And as generations had died and lived for Ireland, their lives will be taken because will be seen as not worthy as much as this young person who has no DNA belonging to Ireland, never paid any taxes, has nothing to do with Ireland, has no blood, nothing, no heritage, nothing to do with Ireland, ancestors from wherever. Their lives as the new Irish will be seen as more important, will be put first. It's an absolute disgrace. Some ways you kind of start to think, Jesus, it's almost like a government planned it. First they got rid of the babies, now they're getting rid of the old and the sick. Who's next? All the native Irish they can possibly get rid of. Beginning to think that this has all been a huge plan. If it hasn't been a plan, they're certainly using it to their advantage. They're talking about, you know, the army going on the streets. And you won't be allowed protest. Well, I guess that about a week ago. I knew that they were going to do that. So you won't be allowed protest, or you'll be acting criminal. And people are saying, well, you know, they won't have enough place in prisons. And guess what? They're letting prisoners, real criminals, out because of the coronavirus. And then they will be putting people in who are protesting against the government or free speech or anything for our liberties. We're talking about against the EU or the horrific crime of bringing in fake refugees into our country. Anybody like that will be seen as the new criminals. Criminals who are raping, murdering, particularly if they're brown or Muslim will have a super gold card, get out of free jail card, no matter what they've done. It's the sign of the times. It really is madness what's happening. As I said, 10 days before they stopped the flights to Italy, and all our cases are linked to Italy. So it's a disgrace. Gardaí to be given the army, in control with the army, on the road. So there's also people not taking in cash now in Dublin. There's signs on shops and such like that. They're not going to receive cash because they're afraid the coronavirus will be spread into the cash. So again, this is quite, it's almost as if it's planned. You think about it, you're not using cash. You have a complete paper trail. I said this a few years ago. They'll be able to know where you are, what you're spending, how much you're spending, and whether you're paying taxes, whether you're not paying taxes, whether they like what you say or they don't like what you say. They will know exactly. So say they decide, you're talking too much about free speech. They don't like what you're saying about the EU, the UN, or the government, or the fact that he wasn't voted in and yet he's still stuck in bloody government. He got the lowest votes in history, yet he's still been able to be called acting as Taoiseach, caretaker Taoiseach, which he should be made resign. Well, he did resign, but he's back in because of the coronavirus, using it to his full advantage. We're never going to get rid of that horrible government and the rest of the bastards. We really won't. They're going to use every opportunity to stay in. Now, I'm not a big fan of Sinn Féin by any means, but I actually think they should have been given a chance purely because they got the highest number of votes, and he got the lowest of all time, any Taoiseach since the state began. People aren't talking about that now. And it seems all this is a little bit too convenient for Leo. I'm not saying that it was planned, but he certainly is using it to his full advantage to stay in, to bring in laws against the people. So your bank account can be stopped at any time as if you were a criminal. And they have no interest in the criminals being in prison. They want them out so they can have more of an excuse of having the police control. We are run by a police state. This is martial law, and they will decide how much taxes you should and shouldn't be paying. They will literally be able to get into your bank account and take out whatever cash, whatever they think you need to pay. And if you don't, they can freeze your account. It happens in other countries. So this is their way, because Ireland was quite comfortable with their cash. They had to get rid of it for most of Europe. So this is their excuse now, the coronavirus. You're going to see a lot of crappy things being brought in as an excuse for the coronavirus. The thing is to try and stay at home. Don't go out. Use your Netflix. They're talking about probably this is going to go on for months. The country is going to crash. And instead of, most people are out there buying loads of freezer full of food and, main thing is to buy tins. Because the electricity could be cut off as well. So to think about that, it's the country is going to crash. We never really got back on our feet since 2008, no matter what the bullshit government has said. So we're in a very bad situation. And I would say that the electricity could all go. So you need to kind of prepare for that, like have an open fire or whatever way, make sure you have enough wood or whatever to keep it going. And tin food. And if you have a gas cooker, it would be better than electric cooker, because, buy the gas bottles unless you've that one under piping the gas that comes in. If, unlike me, I have a gas bottle that does it all, which you can buy. You can buy those camping stoves, which would be a lot better if things really hit the fan as we're only at the very beginning of this. We've a long, long journey to go. So you need to start thinking about survival mechanisms, what foods you will need. They're all in tins. Freezers will not be good after 24 hours if the electricity goes off. All the food will have to be thrown out. So tins is the best way to go. Buy a massive thing of rice, pasta, and potatoes. It's a long journey left to go. And as the government will take control of the streets and anybody speaking out. So thank you for listening again on the Bon Marie Show. I'll speak to you tomorrow on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have the Skype sorted out so that we can speak to Elvis. Tomorrow we'll be learning about Islam. Again, thank you very much for listening on the Bon Marie Show.